So welcome back. Today's topic is actually the beginning of many topics on this. This is my favorite topic to talk about, which is men's health. And today's version of men's health is actually going to be speaking about society's emasculation of men and the two kinds of men that it's creating, as well as why we should be aiming to be the latter. But first, this episode is here to start the open conversation. More often than not, I see men not being able to start discussing our feelings. We are not given the space to provide our emotions. The standard of being a man has changed. And the role for us being providers has changed. And I realize it's affecting a lot of people's foundation for which they identify themselves as such, or at least value themselves as such. And I'm going to start going into that as well. This is also understanding where a lot of this is coming from and our behaviors that come along with being oppressed, not only for men, but also for women. A lot of this is coming from the feminist movement, for which women now more than ever are provided the opportunity to create themselves income and create their needs and provide for themselves just as much as men were able to do in the past. But here's another thing too. When women, it seems that as the narrative of women being oppressed over the years, who they've been oppressed by are men. Any and all men. And because of this, right, the way that we deal with being oppressed, what humans have done over the years, and if you haven't seen over like the 2000s, is when we as a group feel oppressed and can target one enemy, as soon as we're given the ability to do so, we tear them down. We, instead of raising ourselves up to be better, to match what equality should be, we tear them down into making them feel just as oppressed as we are, and now we feel justified. And that shit doesn't make sense to me at all. And because of this, and like I said, because it's all men that is the source of every single woman's oppression, that's why it's really easy to bring men down and just say, fuck you, you guys are the source of all of our issues. And because a lot of men submit to a lot of women because we don't want to harm women, we don't want to make them feel bad, we just shut the fuck up and take all of this. And now it's getting to a point where we can't express our emotions. Now we're told this, now we're told that. And like I said, this has created two issues. So this episode is going to be one of a lot of many. This is going to create the conversation. I can imagine this is going to trigger certain people. I remember myself and my boy Cody created a podcast last season about men's health. And immediately when we were talking about how men's role, how, hey, sometimes we wish things would be a little bit more fair, quote unquote, a group of girls with the podcast immediately DM'd him and we're like, oh, we want to rebuttal. We need to rebuttal. Here's the thing. Men can be going through our issues. We can be going through our own mental health issues. All the while, women are also going through their own mental health issues. Just because I go through something that might be depressing because of my role as a man, it does not invalidate what you might be going through as a woman. We can all be going through our own shit. We can all be feeling oppressed while having an invisible enemy. And more often than not, I see, though, that we have been programmed to think that just because an opposite gender, an opposite religion, or an opposite anything, that it naturally opposes what we're going through because they might be going through something similar. And it does not invalidate any of this. It just understands it is what it is. So the main purpose of this is to, like I said, discuss the two kinds of people that it's creating based off of how we respond to a lot of these narratives. Now, there's three of them that I'm going to just kind of go over. They're very basic. But there's going to be future episodes of what it's like to be a partner, to be a romantic partner, or to be a lead in a division, or to be a father. There's so many different roles for which men, we kind of need to, I don't want to say redefine, but kind of be realistic with how to approach things based off of human response and based off of what society needs. Not what society is telling us, but what society needs. And there is a genuine difference. And more than ever, there is a lack thereof masculine men. And it's okay. Here's another thing that we got to talk about before we get into this. When I start talking about the two kinds of guys, it's not shaming one for the other. It's not saying that this person doesn't deserve to exist or they're what. I'm not going to start talking about the emasculated and then start emasculating the people that are emasculated. But I want you to understand that being emasculated, being oppressed, being held down to a lower version of yourself is a choice. That's right, I said it. It's a choice. You can either submit to everything that society is telling you. You can either post about how depressed you are in a regular, how unfair life the world is. But I'm also here to tell you the world is unfair. The world is challenging. If you need support, if you want help, you're going to have to find it. You're going to have to go create it. You're going to have to develop it. And sometimes it's not going to be there. And when it's not there, you have to provide that space for yourself and work through it on your own. It's not easy. Being a man is not easy. Being anyone and getting through life and succeeding is not easy. And that's kind of what I'm here to tell you, that no matter the fuck what, it's going to be challenging. But how you respond in those challenges, how you take on those challenges, how you can develop yourselves in lieu of it, that is what matters. Character is not determined by what we do, but rather how well we rise after we fall. And if I were to literally put my life into what it is now, it is a success based off of getting through all the failures and adversities that I've had to go through. That's why I don't view life as a failure. I don't view any of these things as this is the end all be all. See, for me, being Asian American, me living in a 90s stereotypical era where I was told that who I am is a very timid, passive, weak, quiet, submissive kind of a person because of who I am to society. I did live under that rock for so long, but in the inside, I knew that's not who the fuck I was. In the inside, I knew that's not what I wanted to be. And after so many years of, I guess we would call proving myself or trying to prove myself to me, I started to figure out I was just trying to be me, not trying to prove anything. And as soon as I figured out who the hell I was and what I really wanted and how to go after that, all these influences, all these externals, they don't matter anymore. And this is what I'm going to try to teach you. So the first thing we're going to start talking about with regards to what society tries to shit on men and what men feel like they can't do anymore is express our emotions. How often have you seen those TikTok and Instagram videos where you get those really sad songs, this kind of music? Can't express any of our emotions. We are just sad. And you'll see it all the time. I like defaulting that because that's what you hear on Instagram and TikTok. But that music, and then you have this guy talking about how sad he is, how depressed. I'm not saying that you shouldn't understand that you are feeling sad and depressed. But if you're consuming content all the time that's telling you that you're sad and depressed, it's crazy because you will keep yourself sad and depressed. And if you keep looking at the fact that a lot of people don't like hearing other people's emotions and that keeps you sad from being able to express yours, then you need to work on finding people, finding a group, finding an outlet that allows you to express your emotions. Because the reality is, when it comes to being a man, men are looked upon as leadership roles, and because conveying emotions is sometimes portrayed as a way of losing control, it becomes shit on. And it's not expected of men. That's why it's really important for men to find other men who are vulnerable, who are aware of their emotions, who understand the difference between being emotional and being present with your emotions. That's why it's really vital for you to have those things. But if you were to just focus on the fact that you can't express emotions and how unfair it is, you would think that it's just you cannot have emotions. You cannot have this. But that's why you need to get yourself out of fucking social media. Get yourself out of following that shit that depresses you. Because it's not that it's wrong. It's that you can create an invalid truth constantly over and over and over again for yourself. And keep yourself in a rabbit wheel of depression. The second one being your finances. So like we talked about earlier, the role of a man being a provider for needs has gone away. And because that role has gone away, and because women, especially beautiful women, are afforded the opportunity to have men provide for them dinners and things like that, if you really want to stick out and be significantly different, then yeah, you have to be able to provide things for them in a way that is an exception. You know, maybe nicer dinners, maybe it's a nicer car that you drive or something like that. Now, I'm not saying that every woman is superficial. I'm not saying that you have to have buttloads of money to be able to start dating or be accepted in society. All I'm saying is that if you really want to be viewed as an exception on the dating market, if you want to be viewed as an exception in general, then yeah, making a little bit more money, aka being able to do more things that are fun, is just something that we are drawn to as human beings. Why not want to have more fun? Why not want to have better things? Why not want to have more luxury or more safety? See, when you start viewing money in a way that's not I gotta get money, it becomes superficial. Like, we've been programmed to think money is evil for a reason. So if you start realizing that money is just a way to get things that you really want in your life, then you'll realize that it was never about how much money you make, but rather it being able to access you to things that you really want. And the last one is your physique. And there's so many reasons why you should be working out. And if you're insecure, you're going to default to, well, you shouldn't just be buff for vanity's sakes. Now, vanity is an advantage of being, physically fit. But when you start thinking about how it helps you regulate your emotions, helps you regulate your thoughts, helps you show up for yourself in so many other ways. And one, helps your testosterone levels, helps your blood sugar, a whole 9 yards, right? On top of that, when you start looking good, when you start looking more aesthetic, people do respect you a little bit more, not only because of the way you look, but because you have made yourself a priority, because you have invested into yourself physically and made working out into a priority. It shows that energy of investing into yourself, that notion of making yourself a priority shows up in other areas in your life. Because usually what happens is when you start looking better, you want to start looking better with your clothes. You start having a confidence that goes about you. And I'll tell you, men, the best thing you can do, like if you want to get better finances, you want to start improving your social life, work out. Start working out. Start eating better. Start making sleep a priority. Start taking care of yourself. And I promise you, it will cascade in so many other areas in life. Last but not least, you have to understand it's not about being emasculated or not. Again, like I said, this creates two kinds of people. The first one that sees everything about your emotions, not being able to share them, not making enough money, not having the perfect physique. And what they do is, instead of using that as motivation, instead of using that to go after what they really want, they'll now submit to more Instagram and TikTok reels that constantly feed into, you're not a man and we can't express ourselves. It's so tough being a man. We're oppressed. We're this and this and this. Being oppressed, being emasculated, being marginalized, those things only happen if you allow it to happen. And allowing an outside source to validate you or not comes from a lack thereof validation from the inside. In other words, if you validate yourself, if you know who the fuck you are and you know what the fuck you're going after, and because you know what you want, you don't care about what anybody tells you as to who you are and what you should be doing, let alone society, because you know who you are. And so when we start talking about all of these other topics about men's health, when we start going further into these episodes, I hope you understand that all of this comes back into knowing who you are, because the value of self-validation, the value of self-investment, mentally, emotionally, physically, and the value of being on your purpose and serving a higher intention is absolutely vital for us as men, especially in a day in a world where society is trying to do everything they possibly can to tell you that what you're doing is not good enough, especially in a society that tells you as man ain't shit because of you just having a dick. And you got to prove yourself. You got to create yourself. I used to keep myself really depressed. I used to, keep myself under the veil of Asian American men being marginalized. And if you guys don't know what that is, it's people being passive, weak, timid. I have an episode about that last season called How Being an Asian American Male Conditioned Me. Go look at that. But when I was fed this entire time that you're weak, you're passive, you shouldn't be talking, you shouldn't be anything. And even though that's not who I was, it definitely held me back from being the best version of myself. And as soon as I understood that the veil that was keeping me back from everything that I really wanted was just me and the mindset and the thoughts that I told myself, all of this, what society tells me, all of this, what's fair and not fair, all of this, it does not matter. Because when you know who the fuck you are, when you know what the fuck you really want and how to fucking get there, nobody and nothing else matters. So I hope you guys really enjoyed this episode, guys. I really, really appreciate all the follows, likes, and subscribes. And if you guys aren't on Instagram or are not following this, please, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, the ShiftEQ.Podcast with Alan K. On Instagram, ShiftEQ.Podcast. But otherwise, guys, hope you guys enjoy this episode. DM, comment me. I already know this is going to trigger some people, but I hope it does. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoy this. Love you guys, and deuce.